All right, I'm going to suggest that we get started. So welcome everyone to today's webinar, Transitioning from Milestone Documents to the Schlager Digital Library. My name is Lisa Spicco, and I'm your host for today's program. Joining me today is Neil Schlager, who is the founder of Schlager Group Publishing. And also with us today is Sarah Robertson, Vice President of Editorial. And I think that between the three of us, and namely Neil and Sarah, we have the brain trust to answer any and all questions that could possibly come up during today's program. So we're going to really share some valuable information about what we've communicated with you for a couple of months now, which is the important upgrade from Milestone Documents to the Schlager Digital Library. It's an improved experience that we're going to be delivering to faculty and to students. And during today's program, you're going to learn about the support that you can anticipate as we help you to transition courses that you've been using today, potentially for many years now on the Milestone Documents site, over to Schlager Digital Library. We're going to discuss the steps to make sure that you have a timely transition and make sure that that's as effortless as possible for you. And then we'll also provide a demo of the Schlager Digital Library so that you can anticipate firsthand the sort of experience that you'll be able to deliver to your students and how they'll be able to take full advantage of this upgraded solution. First, I just want to take a minute to cover some important details about today's program. The program is being recorded, and so you will receive a copy of the recording and a summary of what we discussed later on this week. Please feel free to share this with other members of your faculty, with your librarian, with others for whom this shift is going to be significant within your institutions. We've tried our best to reach everyone as we can, but we really need your help with making sure that this is as seamless a transition as possible. The chat function has been disabled, but we do really want to hear from you during today's program. So please pop any of your questions or even comments into the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. And we will get through as many of those questions as we can during the program. And of course, follow up with any of those that maybe we can't answer or we run out of time to get to. If you have questions after the program, you continue to think about what we discussed today, please send those straight through to sales@schlagergroup.com, and I guarantee that you will receive a response within 24 hours. We're really eager to connect with you and value your time. So with that, let me turn over the program to Neil Schlager to begin to take us through. And again, we're going to periodically remind you to enter any of those questions or comments into the Q&A. Neil, over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate the introduction, and thanks to all of you for joining us. I know some of you, as Lisa referred to, have been our customers, our collaborators for many years, and so we're really excited about this transition. We think it has a lot of benefits for you, and we're anxious to go through it and tell you more about it and give you a brief demo of the new platform as well. And so with that said, I'm going to turn my camera off and then focus on the screen share, but you should still be able to hear me. And you should be able to see the screen. And as, again, to echo something that Lisa said, if you have any questions as we're going through this presentation, add them to the Q&A link on your Zoom screen. And so let's get started with sort of the most fundamental question: why are we making this change? And there are actually a number of reasons and a number of benefits. Let's just go through a few of these. This first one really, in my mind, is the most important one: a more equitable approach. Even though the Milestone Documents service was not expensive, that's a relative term. And for some students, we know that $25 or $30 was a burden. And so with this new approach, students do not pay individually. Access is provided free through your library. That means if you're using us with one of your courses, your students have automatic access on day one. They never have to pay any money. And so that's really the most critical change and reason for the change. Second thing that I would mention is the simplified authentication. Um, and this is really for your benefit too. And so because students don't have to create their own individual account, they just get automatic logins through your library wherever they are on campus, at home, in their dorm, whatever it may be. Access is instantaneous. They don't have their own accounts. That means they don't have to worry about, maybe they used the wrong they typed in their email address wrong when they signed up. These are some of the things that happened, as you remember with Milestone Documents. Students would put in their email address wrong, or they might forget which email account they used to create their account, and then they wouldn't be able to log on. They would come to you with their complaints saying, Professor so-and-so, I cannot log on. And we were always happy to help them, but it was always a constant source of friction. And I know that many of you over the years heard from students who had trouble accessing the site because, of password, username issues, whatever. That is no longer an issue. You no longer have to worry about that from your end. Efficient administration. A key part of this new platform is persistent URLs, permalinks, that you can use to copy into your syllabus, copy into your LMS. You no longer need to worry about bookstore access codes. You no longer need to worry about having a readings list that you maintain separately in a separate site. This is all about you having your list of readings and links, and those links are always good and valid. And so in a moment, when we do the demo of the new platform, I'll show you how that system works. Fourth benefit to mention here, increased integration. This is important because in the scenario where students were always paying for access, you could not really use Milestone Documents unless you were making it a fundamental part of your course. I know that you would be hesitant to ask students to pay for something that you might only use occasionally. And so that has changed. In this new scenario, the Schlager Digital Library is available to your campus, your entire campus community, 24/7, 365. And with that, it brings in the option where you might want to only use our content for research projects for your students. You could say, okay, go on for this special research project, use the content in the Schlager Digital Library to do your paper, grab your citations, or start your research there. Or you could use it just as, for one particular unit in a course. You could say, okay, this unit on the Renaissance, we are going to use your Schlager Digital Library. For the other units, we're going to use this textbook or some other course material. But this opens up, several different use cases for you and you as an instructor, and really gives you more room to maneuver, and you can assign our content, as a fundamental aspect of a course or just as an adjacent, tool. The final thing that I wanted to mention is that, it's been a few years since we were able to update the content in Milestone Documents. During that time, we have been creating lots of new content, and that content is now on the Schlager Digital Library. Going forward, that updating process is continuing. We have a long list of titles in the pipeline, a long list of content that is being developed, and I'll share that with you in just a second. But that's really a big feature as well. And, it opens up, a new dialogue between us and between you, where, we want to hear from you regularly with, ideas for new content areas that we perhaps need to flesh out with new sources, new commentary, whatever the case may be. And so we look forward to really resuming that dialogue, which we had in the early years of Milestone Documents, but unfortunately lost in the past few years. That is back, that collaboration is back, and we're excited to really share a lot of the new content with you. So let's briefly just talk about the main facts. I know you will have seen these in some of our emails up to date, but just to clarify, the Milestone Document Service is not going away until the end of May 2025. That means you can use it in the spring, as you always have, if you want to. And so no changes there. You can still order bookstore access codes for the spring semester. Nothing has changed. The price is all the same. After May 2025, if you want to use our content, your library will need to have acquired the Schlager Digital Library. And once your library does do that, the content and the platform are available again to your entire university community, 24/7, 365, all faculty, all students in any courses, and accessible on campus or remotely, with no friction, instant authentication through your library. Let's move on to a brief look at the title list, because one thing that I wanted to really clarify is that the content in the Schlager Digital Library is organized by book. And so it's going to be important for you to understand and sort of familiarize yourself with all of our titles, so that you can find the content that you want to share with your students easily. Again, I'll show you this in more detail in just a few minutes when we do the demo of the new platform. And just a brief reminder here, if you have any questions, jump into the Q&A, leave a question there for us, and we will answer that at the end of the webinar. The 2024 title list shown here, there are about 27 titles here. Excuse me. And we have them organized by series, in Milestone Document series, Schlager Anthology series, and Historic Documents series. The difference between those three series is really in the level of commentary that accompanies the documents. This is similar to what you will have found in Milestone Documents. Some documents have very extensive commentary, some have a little bit of commentary, some have none. And so that corresponds to these series that you see here. So the Milestone Document series, those titles, the documents in those titles have very extensive commentary and analysis. The documents that are found in the Schlager Anthology series have more modest commentary and analysis, and the documents themselves are more abridged, shorter, by design to keep them more accessible and to make them, sort of more accessible for a wider range of students. And then finally, the documents in the Historic Document series have no accompanying commentary and analysis. It's just a list of documents that you will find in those titles. Finally, I did want to call out one title here at the bottom that does not fit into any of the series, the Schlager Manual of Primary Sources. And that is a fairly recent title, edited by Eric Cunningham from Gonzaga. I believe Eric is on this webinar today, a longtime collaborator with us. And that's a brief book, but very useful to share with students if you're trying to work with them on understanding what a primary source is, how it compares to and differs from a secondary source or a tertiary source, and how you go about finding them and understanding and analyzing them. It's got 4 brief chapters. You would be able to assign that entire book to a course or just individual articles within it. And so I wanted to call that out. It's a very useful little book, and I urge you all to take a closer look at it once you have access to the Schlager Digital Library. Going forward, 2025, as I mentioned, we have a very robust content updating and addition initiative going on, and so that will continue. So these are some of the titles coming out in 2025 on the platform: Milestone Documents of American Presidents, Schlager Anthology of LGBTQ History. The Milestone Documents textbook layers that you are probably familiar with, all of those will be loaded to the platform in early 2025. And so those, just a reminder, those are textbooks in US history, world history, and Western civilization. And just as before, you will be able to assign an entire textbook or just individual articles within one of those to your students if you would like. The next three titles, American Sources, Perspectives, Counterpoints, these are titles that we published a few years ago that some of you do use as sort of adjacent to Milestone Documents or in addition to them. Those will be loaded to the platform again in early 2025, and you would be able to assign those in whole or in part. And then finally, we will be adding additional historic documents titles as well during 2025. We are still narrowing down the exact topics for those, but if you're interested in knowing what those are, just shoot me an email, and as soon as we fully flesh out what those titles are, we'll be happy to let you know, and happy to let you know what the time frame is as well. That's the 2025 list. There will be more coming in 2026 and beyond. That's one of the most exciting things about this transition. Always lots of new content coming that you can assign to your students, use with your classes. They can use with a research paper or a research project as well. So that being said, I'm going to shift now to showing you a brief demo of the Schlager Digital Library. Again, if you have questions, please use the Q&A feature in the Zoom toolbar and write your question there, and we will get to it at the end of the webinar. So let me switch you over to the Schlager Digital Library. This is the new platform that you will see, assuming your library acquires the platform. It's really a very simple platform. It is organized, as I mentioned, by book. But there are a number of ways that you can search. You can search by title, subject, author, keyword here in this top bar. We are in the process of organizing the content into various collections too. And so, this is a work in progress, but you will see here, various collections: African American Studies, American Government, Ethnic, Gender, and Identity Studies, Latino or Mexican American History and Studies, Medieval Studies, Renaissance Europe, US History, World History. We'll be fleshing this out with a number of additional sort of more specific subject areas to help you with browsing and navigating and finding material that is useful to you. And same goes for students. You can also search by author of a document as well. And if you go down, you'll see different ways of looking at this, different ways of seeing the various collections and subject areas, and published titles. You can view all those as well, forthcoming titles. The one in the middle is our Milestone Documents of American Presidents, which will be coming in the spring. Our Anthology of the Ancient World, also edited by Eric Cunningham, who was on this webinar. That comes out on the platform in November. So just a couple more weeks, you'll find that entire content here on the platform. And our Anthology of American Wars and Conflicts is coming in January. Back to the platform, as I mentioned, an easy way to really begin your navigation and exploration of this platform is by book. And so if you click on the book here, you'll be able to browse the entire list of titles that are currently available on the platform. Lots of different options here. If we open one of them, let's say the US Milestone Documents of US Slavery, it will take you to a landing screen for that book. From here, if you were, let's see, teaching a class on US slavery and you wanted to assign this entire book to your class, you could do that with the share button here. And although it's not showing up right at the moment, but there is normally is a share URL link that you can quickly grab here, copy it into your syllabus or onto your LMS, and students would then just use that link, come straight here. Once the student is here, they can read this content online. They can download it to their own computer or their own device for offline use as well. And just a note, on every book landing screen, there is a citation tool where students can, plug in the format of their choice, and it will give them the easy citation tool that they can copy into their notes program or a paper or what have you. Once you land on a book, then from here, this is an easy way then to explore the actual contents of this book. So clicking on the chapters tab shows you all of the chapters in this title. And let's say you wanted to just share individual chapters in this title. Well, that's how you would do it. You would click on an individual chapter. Again, it comes up with the landing page for that chapter. Over here, you have the share button. Again, there will be a share URL link, or you can just copy this link up here, copy that link to your syllabus, to your LMS, and this particular article would then be shared with your students. They would click on that link. They would come here. Again, they can read the article online, or they can download the PDF. If they choose the read online, it will bring up the PDF of the document, of the commentary, if there is that. And there you go. There is the article on this John Woolman document with all of our commentary and analysis and the document text as well. And again, students can read it online, download it to their computer, download it to their phone if they would like. That is really the interface in a nutshell. It's really very simple, organized by book. If you go into a book, you'll see the chapters. That is really a very probably the easiest way to get started. Now, if you do want to just search by a topic, let's say you're teaching Plato. If you just search in Plato, it will pull up individual chapters about Plato or featuring him. Here's one, with his allegory of the cave. Here are other chapters that mention him. But again, if you go to the allegory of the cave that you just opened, here again, you can share this URL. Students can come here, read it online, download it, whatever they prefer. So that's the platform. It's really very simple. Again, you don't have to worry about students having accounts. It's all, instant authentication through the library, quite straightforward. That does it with the preview of the platform. Again, if you have questions, share them in the Q&A section of your Zoom screen. But I would say once we start working with your library, we are happy to do a demo with them, a demo with you and your faculty, your faculty colleagues down the road once your library acquires the platform. So keep that in mind. We are always available for that sort of impromptu screen share Zoom meeting where we walk you through the platform again, walk you through how to find content, how to share it with your students, and so forth. Let's talk about next steps. As I mentioned, this is all about beginning a dialogue with your library. And so that's really where we start. Some of you who are on this webinar, I know We have already done trials of the platform with your library, or we're doing the trial now, or we're in discussions about doing a trial or sharing information. And so, thank you for those of you who have already reached out and referred your library to us. In those cases, we will keep you updated. We will alert you, on the status of a trial. If your library wants to do a trial, we'll keep you updated on the discussions about the acquisition. I think that there are some of your libraries that appear like they want to go ahead and acquire the platform pretty quickly, even ahead of the spring semester. In other cases, they may choose to wait until sometime during the spring and make their decision then. But if you have any questions about where we stand with the dialogue with your library, please just reach out via email and we'll be happy to let you know. Throughout this process, I want to emphasize your voice and input are critical for your library's decision. And so please don't hesitate to reach out to your librarian and give this platform a plug. Tell them how important this content has been to you. That really will be very helpful. And final thing is, if your library does acquire the collection and you would like help with migration of your course reading lists, we are happy to do that. I'll share another screen in a second here. My colleague Sarah, who is on this call, will be in charge of the migration of course reading lists. And so just reach out to us if and when that happens, and we'll help you with grabbing all of the links the new links that may correspond to your previous reading lists that you have created in Milestone Documents. And so that said, it's really important. We really hope that you will reach out and, with information about your library, your librarian, if you know who that is. If you don't know who that is, that's all right as well. At the end of this webinar, when I pass it back over to Lisa, she will tell you a little bit more about the survey that happens at the end of the webinar. If you will please go into the survey, fill it out. It's very brief, but in that survey is an area where you can provide information about your library, or just tell us that you want us to contact them directly. If you don't know who your librarian is, that's all right. Just tell us, Schlager Group, please, you do the research, you contact the library, and let me know how it goes. We are happy to do that. So fill out the survey at the end of the webinar, and you can input that information there. If you have already done the librarian outreach, which I know some of you on this call have done, that's great. You don't need to worry about it. I think you know where we stand, but obviously we will hope that you'll fill out the brief survey anyway. Just reach out to either me or Sarah if you have questions about librarian outreach, about the reading list migration, or anything else related to this transition. You'll see that our email addresses here are our schlagergroup.com addresses. We still have our milestonedocuments.com email addresses. If that's easier for you, by all means, just email each of us at those addresses, not a problem. Or reach out by phone as well. We are happy to talk to you at any point and really try to help you understand what the dialogue is with your library, where that dialogue is, in the process, we'll try to work with you as that process unfolds. So with that, I think we are at an end. Again, if you have any questions, please raise them in the Q&A section, and I am going to stop sharing my screen and turn it back over to Lisa right now.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you very much, Neil. And yes, we do have questions, so that's wonderful. And I'm going to leave it to probably kind of you and Sarah to figure out who's going to answer what. But the first question is, do I have to wait until May 2025 to move to the Schlager Digital Library, or can I do that now? You had made mention in your remarks that there are some libraries that are working with their faculty now and are very eager to take advantage of this and to kind of get things rolling quickly. But kind of speak to that, if you will, for a minute.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. So that's a great question. You do not have to wait. Libraries can add our collection right now, and some already have. And so, and in other cases, as I mentioned, there are trials that have just ended or are going on with some of your institutions. And our hope is that those libraries will go ahead and acquire the platform now ahead of the spring semester. And so your library does not have to wait until May to get this started or to make a decision or to begin a dialogue. So a library's acquisitions process can be lengthy and very involved. And so I would urge all of you to go ahead and reach out now. The sooner you reach out or you ask us to reach out, the sooner we can get the process started, the better, because it can take some time for your library to evaluate any new database or collection and act on it.
Yeah, gosh, that's such a great point. And you showed such a compelling 2025 front list that I'm also thinking that could be really motivating to get in there and access some of that great new content as well. The next question kind of talks about, well, what happens once Milestone Documents is suspended? You know, is there one day where suddenly the URL just doesn't resolve? Will the course content still be available somewhere, but maybe it won't be available to students?
That's also a good question. And so we are turning the service off at the end of May, but what that really means is just for your students, it will not be there. Now, for you, we will give a little bit of grace period. We may keep it up through June or even through July. I urge you to reach out to me or to Sarah if, at that time, if that time comes, if you want help with gathering, downloading sort of your list of readings, whatever the case may be, we're happy to help at that point. But certainly you might have a grace period of 30 or 60 days into June or July, but then at that point, the entire URL will go dark. There will be no more milestonedocuments.com, and or if there is, it will actually just redirect to the Schlager Digital Library. And so please be in touch as we get to May. And obviously we'll be in touch with you as well to let you know what that time frame is, what the grace period is for you as an instructor.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think we're probably about 8 weeks into our messaging and communications campaign on this. So if there's one thing that hopefully you have heard or deduced from all of us is that we're taking this really seriously. We want to make sure that you keep pace with what's happening because it can be so easy to lose track of time. So there was a question that came in about the student access, and you had shared your screen. It was very easy to see kind of the navigation, and I always marvel at that you can kind of show this in effectively 10 minutes or less. But is there a login that students would need to go through to kind of gain access? What is that like?
Yeah, there is no login. And so, what will happen is, every one of your libraries already has a list of electronic databases. And the Schlager Digital Library will be on that list of databases. And so, a student would be able to go straight there. We can share the URL as well. It's just library.schlagergroup.com. But you could put our URL and the student can just go straight there. They will then need to enter, if they're, let's say, if they're at home, if they're not on campus, they would need to enter their institution. It would pop up, immediately authenticate them. They would be into the platform, into the content. They're good to go. If they're on campus, there's not even that friction. They just, if they click on the link, they enter the platform automatically.
It's excellent. Easy is what I hear you saying.
Yes.
Easy to access.
Yep.
Okay, so we had a question about, I guess, referring to the communications and the emails that I had referenced. We'd mentioned that the Schlager Digital Library includes content not previously available in Milestone Documents. So can you describe that a bit more, please? And I think you kind of spoke to what's coming, but I think this is maybe also a question about what might exist in the Schlager Digital Library today that hasn't previously been accessible in Milestone Documents.
Very good question. Excuse me. And Sarah, please pipe up if I miss anything. But we've been publishing a lot of new reference collections since 2020. And so we're sort of 4 years into creating lots of new content across many different areas. So some things that come immediately to mind, I showed you milestone documents of US slavery. Some of those documents were already in milestone documents, but many of them were not. And so there's lots of new content there. We just published in the summer Milestone Documents of Christianity, edited by Joseph Stewart, who again is a longtime collaborator and user of Milestone Documents. Many of those sources were not in Milestone Documents. There is some overlap, but many of them were not. So lots of new things there. Let me call out our anthologies of Black America and Hispanic America. Again, some overlap with Milestone Documents, but lots and lots of new documents, lots of content not previously found in Milestone Documents. The same is true with our anthology of women's history. And our Ancient World, which is coming out again next month. Some fair amount of overlap with documents, but lots of new commentary as well, new study questions. So those are some of the things that come to mind. Sarah, is there anything that you would add that I may have missed in that recitation?
No, I think I would also just add a lot of the documents come up to the present day as well. So in our new titles, they're very current. So you should find a lot of new content that is, relevant to today.
Yes, great point. And one example there, a title that I forgot to mention, Milestone Documents of the Supreme Court. Again, there's certainly some overlap with documents that were already on Milestone Documents, but lots of new decisions or decisions over time that have been added because of that set. And even something like the Dobbs decision, is not in Milestone Documents, I don't believe, but we have full commentary and treatment and the full text of that decision in the new platform.
Excellent. Thank you for that thorough response. I think that part of what you shared in the interface, as well as maybe the full title list, kind of evoked the idea that this may have some broader use across courses. So the question here is, I've previously used Milestone Documents for one specific course, but the description of Schlager Digital Library, and presumably what you showed, kind of indicates that it could be used for more than one course. So is there a way, and maybe this would be even a part of engaging the librarian and other faculty as well, is there a way to kind of share the breadth of possible application across courses?
Great question. And yes, and so we have realized for quite a long time that the content can serve many different courses. And so one thing that we have done recently is we created a course map that's available on our website. We can share the URL with you, or if you just go to our website, schlagergroup.com, you'll find it very easily. But we can share that course map with you and with your librarian. That would really gives a better sense of the possibilities there, whether it's Catholic studies, Latino studies, Renaissance Europe, history of China, whatever the case may be. Lots of different more specialized courses can take advantage of this platform. And again, because you are no longer asking your students to purchase this content, it's just available. So even if you only want to use it for a portion of a class, or just, again, as a research tool for your students for their research and writing projects, it really is applicable for many different courses, not just individuals, the introductory survey course, which is how many of you, I think, mostly have used it, but upper division courses, more specialized courses. The Schlager Manual of Primary Sources is a great book to use with any course, especially courses that have history majors in them. So, yeah, refer to the course map. We're happy to share it. We will definitely share it with your library once we make connection with them.
And I would just add, our content also extends outside of the history discipline. So it's applicable to any, your political science department would be interested, your religious studies department, even humanities and English courses. So just keep that in mind. It's not just specific to your history department.
Oh gosh, that's a great point. We will certainly send a follow-up email that includes, the link to the recording. And let's make a mental note to include a link to that course map that you described as well, because I think that really provides it pays off what the two of you were just describing as well. So here's someone who I think is kind of thinking a little more on the ground level of how they've worked with Milestone Documents in the past. And so I've always used some of your textbook articles for my course reading lists. Will those be loaded to the new platform?
Yes, we are going to load all of the textbook articles to the platform. They'll be loaded as a book form, so like US History 1 to 1877 will be loaded. But then, like everything else on our platform, it will be broken down. You can assign individual articles. The same ones you have always assigned will be there for you to assign in the future. So all of the textbook articles will be migrating over early in 2025.
That's great. Here's another question. This is pertaining to Milestone Documents, and I think functionality that was kind of central to using that site. It says at Milestone Documents, I made use of the notes feature in order to add comments for my students. Will those be usable at the new platform?
Good question. Unfortunately, they will not be. And so, this is part of the environment of, students not having their own individual accounts. It makes it more difficult to share notes. That being said, there are some great open source tools, free tools that you can use with, a platform like Schlager Digital Library. The one that I would call out is called Hypothesis, and it is widely used across academia. And so you can set up a private sort of course with your students and share notes with a specific class on any URL, any PDF that includes the URLs that you would be, grabbing from Schlager Digital Library and includes those PDFs. And so I would urge you to check out Hypothesis. It may already be loaded into your LMS, loaded into your library systems, and we can, help you find out about that if you want. But you can go to Hypothesis, yourself and download that. Again, it's free, open source, widely used in academia. And that would be a great, I think, transition for the notes feature that you might have been using in Milestone Documents.
That's really interesting. I hadn't heard of that, so we'll definitely go in and take a look at it. And you mentioned LMS, and that's, I think, the last question that we have as of now. So how will the content in the Schlager Digital Library, how will that link with the LMS? Or I think this could probably be extended as well to course lists, if you're using like a Talus, for example, or a Leganto. So can you describe just a little bit of that?
Yes, and so if you remember where I was excuse me, showing you how to share a link, share a URL, whether that's an individual book or a specific article or document inside the book, which is called a chapter on the Schlager Digital Library platform. So if you grab those permalinks, those persistent URLs for a specific piece of content, then you can copy that link into your LMS. I'm not that familiar with each of the various LMSs to know how the copying of links works, but I think it's fairly straightforward in all cases. And so if you simply copy that link into your LMS, all your students need to do is click on the link, and they will automatically go into the platform to that spot in the platform where they can download the PDF, read it there online, whatever the case may be. And then the same, I think, would be true of, if your institution does have a reading list tool like Leganto or Talus, you can just grab those same URLs, copy them over. Or if you use a syllabus that's outside of your LMS or part of it, again, just load the links directly into your syllabus as well, and students go directly to the content that they need.
Terrific. I think probably important to mention, if this recording is shared with librarians, or if a combination of faculty and librarians kind of watch the playback, I think important to also just make the note that MARC records are available for all of the content that's within the Schlager Digital Library. And what that means is the ability to then integrate that content into the library catalog. So, whether students are accessing it through an LMS or they're accessing through the library catalog or as a standalone collection, there's lots of points of entry.
That's right. And that's where, if you remember the search I did on Plato in the little demo, let's say your library acquires the collection of the platform. That means, one of your students or any student at your college could go into the library website, enter Plato into the search bar, and our results would show up. And they would be able to click on those results and go to the platform and see that content. And so if it's a case of a student doing a research paper where you have not given them specific links or specific things to look at, they can find it that way as well. And so that really is, how it can work across courses, even courses where an instructor really is making no mention of the Schlager Digital Library, but students are doing their own research projects. They will be able to uncover our content and our platform.
That's great. And I feel like that kind of takes us back to where you began, which was really talking about the reason, one of the most compelling reasons for moving to the Schlager Digital Library, and just really opening up the access for all students, to make this more widely available, a more equitable solution. So with that, I have checked the Q&A. We don't have any additional questions. I want to make sure, Sarah, if you have some final remarks, and then Neil, and then I'll take care of closing the program and providing a little bit on the next steps.
Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just, thank you, Lisa and Neil. And just to extend one more time, I'm around to help if you would like to migrate your course over to Schlager Digital Library. I can help you with any content related things. So please just send me an email.
Great. And yeah, just to echo what Sarah said, reach out via email or phone, whatever you prefer. We're happy to help. We're really excited about this transition, and it's been several years in the making. We think it has a lot of benefits to you and your entire campus community. And so, we look forward to working with you and your librarians to hopefully, get the collection on board. This is a long process. It can be a long process. And so you'll continue to hear from us over the coming weeks and months, even into the spring semester. If you're in a situation where your library is still considering it into the spring, still discussing it, or is not responding, just be in touch with us, and we will find a way to make sure that we contact them and start that dialogue, and begin the discussion, set them up with a demo, whatever the case may be. And so start of a new chapter. Milestone Documents has been wonderful. We're really excited for Schlager Digital Library, and we think that you're going to like it and like all of the new content, and your students are going to like not having to pay for it. So with that said, I'll turn it over. Lisa, thank you so much for hosting, and everybody just feel free to reach out.
Yeah, well, absolutely, my pleasure. So first, I want to say on behalf of Neil and Sarah, we really want to thank you for making the time to join today's program, whether you join live or you listen to this during the on-demand. The program on transitioning from Milestone Documents to Schlager Digital Library, if you take away one point, it's that while this is a long process, you don't have to go it alone. You really don't. We are so eager and ready to help you and support you through this entire process. I hope the information that we've shared is going to help you develop a plan of action for your courses. If you feel like you have, it's hard to know where to begin, again, certainly reach out. Now, as Neil said, one of the most essential parts of this transition is the engagement with your librarian. And in order to make that as seamless as possible, we have a survey that is going to pop up at the end of this program. Now, some of you who are joining the program today have already communicated with us, your librarian, and as Neil said, we have trials that are in process or trials that have wrapped up and the product is under consideration, or some trials that are about to begin. So there's a number of different kind of steps in the process. Depending on where you're at, if we've not yet gotten to that point, please complete the survey. And if you know the contact information for your librarian, just simply give us the name and their email. And we'll be happy to reach out. We will keep you at pace with us in those communications. I realize that in many cases, you may not know who the right person is in the library, and we're happy to take that on as well. So give us any information that you have, which may be, I don't know who my librarian is, but I'm really interested to take this forward and to make the transition. And I guarantee that we will absolutely do our best to find who the right person would be for us to connect with. And then we'll stay very much at pace with you on what it is that we're doing and how those communications are continuing. As Neil said, your advocacy is essential through all of this. So help us help you where you have that contact information, and we'll certainly do our best to support and make sure that you have a solution that we think is actually going to better suit your students and certainly a broader array of students and faculty for years to come. Later this week, you're going to receive this recording. You'll receive an email that will also summarize some of the key points. The deck that Neil had shared will include a link to that course guide, so you can also take a deeper dive and understand where there may be opportunities to even use this with a broader cross-section of courses within your university. And as we said at the very beginning, if anything comes up, you continue to think about this and a burning question comes up and it didn't within the hour, reach out to us. Drop an email to sales@schlagergroup.com. We will gladly respond to that and follow up as quickly as we can. We're ready and eager to help. So let's kind of get on with it. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. Goodbye for now.